Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltare, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last few years, I've been featuring each Victoria King's daughter and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them. We're now on 225. Not bad. Got a long way to go, though. And today, like I said, we are featuring episode 225. But before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify. All that helps my logarithm. And the next three are ways to help the channel grow. We have Ko-fi and Patreon, which are standalone platforms that you can subscribe and starts at $1 all the way to $25. I also have on my website a PayPal link as well, so you can donate that way. So to any and all of you who have donated, supported, contributed, are watching the videos, thank you, thank you, thank you. You really do thrill me every time you make a of course, I love the compliments and everything, but I also like the critiques and say, hey, you missed this or you missed that, because I always want to get better. And I appreciate your working with me as well. So I feel like we're partners on this journey. So with that being said, let's get started and explore episode 225. So episode 225 is Catherine Gateau. Isn't that a great name? Gateau, for those of you who don't speak French, means cake. So this is Catherine Cake. I wonder how she got that name. I wonder if somebody was, is, a baker in her family or something like that. I just wonder about that. This is a viewer request. I don't have her in any of my files, so let's have a look at Catherine Gateau. She was born in 1651 in the parish of Saint-Médard. The church where she would have been baptized dates from the 14th century and is, as far as parish churches go, smaller than the average, but equally as beautiful. It's found in the 5th arrondissement, which is the oldest arrondissement in Paris and was first built by the Romans. This arrondissement, also known as Panthéon, is situated on the rive gauche of the river Seine. This arrondissement, this circle, this district, is dominated by universities and other educational institutions. It's, of course, where the Sorbonne was created, and it is called, for that reason, the Quartier, the Latin Quarter. It's not Latin as what we think of it as Latin. It is Latin, the language. Her parents were Eudard Gateau and Geneviève Doucet. Her parents died and she became a fille du roi. Coming to New France on August 15, 1671, she brought with her a dowry worth about 250 pounds. The groom that she selected and who selected her, his name was Vivien Jean, and he was born in 1648 in a place called Écueilleux, France. His parents were Vivien Jean and Jeanne Algy. He is from the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region of France, and the département is Charente-Maritime. And remember that département means like a county. And so we have here a very, very small place. What was interesting when I was doing the research, they have about 1,300 people that live there now. But in 1652, a plague epidemic killed 102 inhabitants. And at the time, Charles Duras asked the parishioners for a way out, an act of grace in the form of a mission, which to be carried out in 1653. This is perhaps the reason why we find traces of departure toward New France. A couple from that time, Vivien Jean and Suzanne Hérault, had 3 sons who left for these new lands. The name of the hamlet, Vivien Jean, therefore finds its explanation here. So it's almost as if the plague, because they had 3 sons that came, so Vivien was not alone as he came into New France. So the Jean brothers would arrive in New France, Vivien, Guillaume, Pierre, and Élie, 4 of them. Now, they signed a contract in March of 1669. This was a 5-year one, which would mean that by 1674 they'd be free to marry. Things took a little change in the road for Vivien, however. So a little bit over 2 years after he sailed to New France, he somehow fell in love with Catherine and wanted her for his wife. And so on the 19th of November, 1671, he was married. They were married at Beauport. And so let's see where they settled. So you can see that they did settle in Beauport where they were married. And this is a map of Beauport done in 1663, about 8 years before they came to the scene. And then we have Beauport where it is located now. In 1634, Robert Giffard received the Seigneurie of Beauport from the Compagnie des Cent Associés, the 100 Associates Company. And so it was just a very small village until about 1698 when about 400 French colonists settled just east of the Rivière Beauport and was attracted by the flour mill and the agricultural land. So it took a while for it to kind of bloom, if you will. But this is where they first settled. So they would come down the river a little bit and eventually settle down in Champlain, and we find them there in the 1681 census. The Champlain municipality lies on the territory of the former seigneuries of Marsolet and L'Arbre à la Croix, which were granted in 1644. The seigneurie of Champlain was granted in 1664. We had a few coming in 1664 and 1665, but there was so much threat of the native population at the time that it was just really, really difficult. Some of the very first families that came from Three Rivers to Champlain include families called Desroisiers, Chorel, and Dandonnet. So just wanted to point that out. Now in the 1681 census, we have Vivien and we have Catherine. They're both 30 years old. They have one child, Ignace, who's 7, Marie, Joseph, and Jean Bidou, who is a domestic. They have 4 goats and 30 alpamans. Now, this is an ambitious fellow. So that's about 26 acres of land. Amazing, amazing for the time. Go on to have 9 children. Noel would die before the 1681 census. Ignace would marry Angélique Dandonneau. Remember that name, Dandonneau? That was one of the founding families at Champlain and become an Engagé West. They both died in Detroit, Michigan. They would have one son who survived to adulthood and married. Marie-Catherine would marry Jacques Sauvage and have 2 children, both of whom would make it to adulthood. She would then marry Pierre Godefroy and, like her brother, Ignace, settle and pass away at Detroit, Michigan. Joseph married Jacqueline Billet at a very late age of 43 and have 2 children, both of whom would make it to adulthood. We have Marie-Madeleine Angélique, who became a nun. We have Pierre, with no further information. Jacques René would die in infancy. Marie Marguerite would become a nun with the Hôtel Dieu, as well as her sister, the Quebec. And West, and no further information. So this is a family that I think DNA will benefit because there might be some descendants that don't realize the connections, because it's been lost to history. So I have this feeling that some of you out there may be surprised that you link to this family. So another adventure for Vivien. He would now join the very famous explorer Nicolas Perrault, who, as you know, founded so many places in the Midwest and all of that. But he would become an engagé as of 1687, leaving his wife, Catherine, to fend for herself for many years. And so this is just a remarkable study. And that is one of the reasons why his sons and daughter would eventually go the way of, because they saw their father doing that. So they had this background of adventurous and, kind of risk-taking. So I'm fascinated to know if this is part of the DNA of this particular family. Vivien would die in 1703 at the relatively young age of 55 for the time period, and even for our years, certainly for our years. He and Catherine would have been married 32 years as of his passing. Catherine herself would go on to live another 23 years, dying at the age of 75. She is buried at Champlain, and she died 1726. And they would leave, as of 1729, 46 descendants. And so you can find out more information about the Jean brothers. Vivien is part of the profile. It says Pierre Jean. but all of the brothers are featured in the volume 23. And we also have the Facebook page where you can download that information. So have a look at that. As always, these names change over time, and I wanted to just have a look and show you what these names could end up being. We have Denis, Jean, Gaudon, Jean, Jean-Pierre, Jérôme, Lafleur, Laforest, Léonard, Maurice, Petit, Pierre-Jean, Saint-Maurice, Chêne, or Sean, Tour, Tourangeau, Vien, and Yen. So, I mean, any of these names could be leading you back to the Grant family. Always some of the resources that I use. Today I want to feature Les Filles du Roi Descendants, which is a Facebook group, really a very strong Facebook group with lots of really, really wonderful people. They love to share, and I would definitely recommend you go on there and ask to be a member, and they accept you based on, you know, your particular interest, if you will. And so it has to have something to do with Filles du Roi. Certainly really, really interesting Facebook group. And I have, you know, been a part of it for several years, and I'm constantly amazed at the support and the generosity of those people. So have a look at that. It may help you connect with some cousins. So we end episode 225. Catherine Gateau, our beautiful Catherine. I just imagine her as beautiful with a beautiful name like that. They certainly made an impact on the world, not just on their small place in Champlain, but also North America with Vivienne's journeys and their children's journey. So their influence is really kind of all over the map. And so that's really fascinating to see how their family roots grew and expanded into North America. So we thank them for not only their contribution, but their bravery and their ability to see the big picture and keep going and keep exploring, because that is all part of the tapestry that is North America. And so we thank them so much for their contribution. And I also want to say thank you to my contributors and supporters. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Couldn't do this without you, or couldn't keep going, you know, as strong without you. So I really do appreciate all the kind words and financial support. That helps as well. I want to also have a shout out to Shelby, who is one of my patrons and who has contributed some of the artwork here, actually all the artwork. So thank you so much, Shelby. So with that being said, I will see you on episode 226. Until then, au revoir.